From the rising of the sun to its going down, the Lord's name is to be praised. Let us open our hearts to his presence and listen for his voice in the stillness of this evening hour. Our evening sacrifice, God's Last Day Church, April 1st, the 1901 General Conference Session response. Immortal, invisible, God only wise, in light inaccessible, hid from our eyes, most blessed, most glorious, the Ancient of Days, almighty, victorious, thy great name we praise. The 1901 General Conference Session response. These things write I unto thee, hoping to come unto thee shortly. But if I tarry long, that thou mayst know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. 1 Timothy 3 verses 14 and 15. Who do you suppose has been among us since this conference began? Who has kept away the objectionable features that generally appear in such a meeting? Who has walked up and down the aisles of this tabernacle? The God of heaven and his angels. And they did not come here to tear you in pieces, but to give you right and peaceable minds. They have been among us to work the works of God, to keep back the powers of darkness, that the work of God designed should be done should not be hindered. The angels of God have been working among us. I was never more astonished in my life than at the turn things have taken at this meeting. This is not our work. God has brought it about. Instruction regarding this was presented to me, but until the sum was worked out at this meeting, I could not comprehend this instruction. God's angels have been walking up and down in this congregation. I want every one of you to remember this, and I want you to remember also that God has said that he will heal the wounds of his people. During the general conference, the Lord wrought mightily for his people. Every time I think of that meeting, a sweet solemnity comes over me and sends a glow of gratitude to my soul. We have seen the stately steppings of the Lord our Redeemer. We praise his holy name, for he has brought deliverance to his people. It has been a necessity to organize union conferences, that the General Conference shall not exercise dictation over all the separate conferences. The power vested in the conference is not to be centered in one man or two men or 6 men. There is to be a council of men over the separate divisions. For further information regarding organizational changes made at the 1901 General Conference session, see the Seventh-day Adventist Encyclopedia. We cannot now step off the foundation that God has established. We cannot now enter into any new organization, for this would mean apostasy from the truth. I am instructed to say to Seventh-day Adventists the world over, God has called us as a people to be a peculiar treasure unto himself. He has appointed that his church on earth shall stand perfectly united in the spirit and counsel of the Lord of hosts to the end of time. At times, when a small group of men entrusted with the general management of the work have, in the name of the General Conference, sought to carry out unwise plans to restrict God's work, I have said that I could no longer regard the voice of the General Conference represented by these few men as the voice of God. But this is not saying that the decisions of the General Conference, composed of an assembly of duly appointed representatives men from all parts of the field should not be respected. God has ordained that the representatives of his church from all parts of the earth, when assembled in a general conference, shall have authority. The error that some are in danger of committing is in giving to the mind and judgment of one man or of a small group of men the full measure of authority and influence that God has invested in his church in the judgment and voice of the general conference assembled to plan for the prosperity and advancement of his work. God has invested in his church with special authority and power, which no one can be justified in disregarding and despising, for he who does this despises the voice of God. I am encouraged and blessed as I realize that the God of Israel is still guiding his people and that he will continue to be with them even to the end. From EllenWhite's final message to the Seventh-day Adventist Church in General Conference session. These reassuring words were read to the session by the General Conference President, A.G. Daniels, on May 27, 1913. Great Father of glory, pure Father of light, thine angels adore thee, all veil in their sight. All praise we would render, O help us to see. 'Tis only the splendor of light hideth thee. This passage was taken from Last Day Events, page 54 to 56, or Evening Sacrifice, April 1st. I encourage you to connect with God and receive strength to overcome obstacles each day. Thank you for listening. Please join us tomorrow as we offer up our evening sacrifice.